Hey, brother.
Hey, Al.
And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell,
And I'm Blake Murphy.
and just as it sounds, we're siblings who love true crime.
Yes, love it. Love it.
Love it. We obviously are trying to do virtual once again. We still don't know what we're doing,
Yeah. But we're trying.
but we're trying. Now that I'm getting further along pregnancy, I'm in Utah a whole lot more, so we're just doing what we can.
hmm
So,
Yeah,
that
we'll be
being
able to
said,
make it work a little bit better in the future.
true.
I just
If,
have to go to training tomorrow.
true. So if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow us. We're Siblings in Crime Pod on most all platforms, or just siblingsincrime.com, and you can send in a request. We also now have a Facebook group. Whoop whoop. Yeah, so
Yes.
join that. It's so
Yep.
fun because everyone's just discussing. We're all just chit-chatting about different cases and stuff like that. So it's Siblings in Crime Facebook group that you can join and come hang out.
Yes. And that's where we'll get some ideas of what you guys like to listen to. And
Mm-hmm.
some of our neighbors will brag about knowing us since we were kids. So,
Yeah, so if you're lucky, you'll see some old neighbor messages. Yippee! That's super
yes.
fun. Well, do you have anything, Blake, before we get into it?
I have something. I do. So
Oh no.
I made the greatest steak the other day. I made some great
Okay.
steak yesterday too. And I think I'm dialing it in. So watch out. Here I
I
come.
believe it. Yeah, I will
You
say
tried it. You
it
loved
is
it.
delicious. It is delicious, I will
Yeah.
say.
Well, yeah, tell them what you were saying. Tell them what you were saying.
So flavorful, so tender, just everything you could ever want a savory bite.
Heck yeah. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, sweet. Well, we're going to go right into it. I think we may be a little delayed, so I'll try and not step all over you if you try to talk. But we're starting
Okay.
July 10th. July 10th, 1981,
What?
morning in Skidmore, Missouri, a farming town of about 440 people in the northwest corner of the state, roughly 80 miles from Kansas City. Ken McElroy knows this town better than anyone else. He's lived here his entire life. He's stolen from half of these farms. He's intimidated half of these families. He has beaten every single charge ever brought against him, 21 of them actually, and walked out of the courtroom a free man more times than most people get parking tickets. This morning, he's at the D&G Tavern. He's drinking before noon. He's got his cigarette and his rifle within reach, the way he always was. Roughly 46 witnesses, and yet still 40 years later, not one of them dares say a word about what happened this day. To understand what happened on July 10th, 1981, we're going to understand Ken McElroy. And so we're going to start on the very beginning. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll. So we're starting, like I said, in Skidmore, Missouri. This is like where one of those places, everyone's like farmers, they're all hard workers, generations and generations are sticking around. Mom, pa shops left and right. So the real farm folk, if you like to say.
Yeah. So I feel like this is a place that is everyone knows each other, everyone knows each other's
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy is just like a robber, a bully or something. Just steals from
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, which is
A
so
huge
crazy.
douchebag.
Yeah. It's so weird because like 440 is probably the smallest town that we have ever dealt with so far. Like that is tiny. And the fact that there's like this one terrorizer just like messing with everybody, he
Yeah.
just kind of runs the town.
It's like smaller than my graduating class by like half.
True. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kenneth Rex McElroy, he was born on June 16th, 1934. He was the 15th of 16 children born to his parents, Troy and Mabel McElroy.
Sounds about right for farmers.
I was like,
They're
that is
just
a huge
breeding all of
family.
their workers.
Yeah, seriously. They were a poor migrant tenant farmers who had moved between Kansas and Ozarks before eventually settling in Skidmore. So he was kind of around, but mainly he spent his whole entire life in Skidmore. He dropped out of school at the age of 15 in the 8th grade. And from there, it didn't take long. He knew the back roads of Nottoway County better than anyone else. He knew how to hunt. He got in trouble a ton. And more importantly, he knew how to get out of that trouble. So by his adult years, Ken McElroy had become the thing that this town was like literally the town's biggest nightmare. He was like their permanent, unresolvable menace to society. So over the course of his life, he was accused of dozens of felonies, including assault, child molestation, stationary
Jeez.
rape, arson, animal cruelty, hog and cattle wrestling, burglary. So weird.
Hog and cattle
And
wrestling?
yeah, I think he would
What does
like
that even
steal
mean?
cattle. He was like stealing
Oh.
cattle and stuff. Yeah, so
Also, those are like a lot worse than just burglarizing people.
yeah, as like the attempted or the alleged like sexual assault crimes. I'm like, that's like a huge
Yeah.
deal. You're not just being a jerk on the street.
Yeah.
So 21 times he was indicted and he escaped
Jeez.
conviction every single time, except for the very last. So he
Ooh.
avoided, yeah. So the reason why he was able to like avoid all these convictions basically was he like terrorized the witnesses and the jury at times, even the judge one time. Like he is just like threatening these people. Like if a jury was due to hear a case that involved Ken, jurors might open their mailbox and find like rattlesnakes. He would be like just parked outside their house, just like waiting with his
Oh,
shotgun just
dang.
to intimidate them.
So he's like an intimidator.
Yeah, big time.
That's
Like,
how that he gets off. It's not from like him being smart and cunning.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. So creepy. He like smashed a guy in the face with his rifle one time because he like threatened to speak up against him after Ken stole 2 horses from him. So it's just like crazy thing. Like literally, it sounds like a fake story because like no way one man is just going out doing all this stuff and he's getting away with it for so long.
yeah.
So unfortunately, you would think, okay, why are these people not just calling the cops, put him behind jail? He's obviously terrorizing everybody. But law enforcement was not immune either to Ken. I don't know how. But retired Missouri State Highway Patrol
Just
trooper
throw him
named
in
Dan.
jail.
That's what I'm saying. Dan, one time, he says that he had a situation with Ken that he pulled him over for speeding one night. He had his service weapon already ready because he knew it was Ken. And he said his eyes just really put you in defense mode. He really looked like a mean person. And because this officer pulled Ken over, it said a few days later, a pickup truck showed up early in the morning hours outside of his house, and he would just drive back and forth, cruise the street, threatening the officer that he had pulled him over.
Jeez.
And this officer, Dan, he was like so worried for his family. He literally waited behind a tree with a shotgun just in case this guy tried to do anything. So like he's even living in fear of this guy. I'm like, can you not be like, oh, he's like harassing a police officer? Like, why are we not doing more to get this guy behind jail? Behind bars?
Yeah. I'm trying to look up a picture of him. Oh,
Don't
yeah.
look
He's
yet.
spooky looking. I'm just looking at a
Oh yeah.
picture.
Okay. Yeah, crazy. He looks the part. I'm like, if you're gonna picture a
Yeah.
town
His
bully,
huge,
he's a big boy.
uh,
Sideburns.
sideburns.
Yeah, so true. Well, he was weighing in at approximately 270 pounds as well, so he's probably got a little extra,
Fatso.
got some extra pounds on him. He's got those bushy black sideburns, like you said, and like he was always carrying a gun, and not just a gun. He would carry. Oh man, I didn't even write it right here, but it's one of those. I bring it up later, but uh, on the edge of his rifle, he could have like I think it's called bayonet. Is it like that big sword thing that comes off of it?
Yeah.
Isn't that so
He
weird?
carried that around? Was he in the
Yes.
military or
Not that I
something?
saw, but I mean, potentially. I didn't have as much on Ken as I could have, which is crazy, but this is 80s. But I was like, what a freak. Just scary as heck.
Yeah. He just like sounds like he wants to be intimidating, which is
Hmm.
sad. He probably is super insecure.
Right. Well, you would think he's super insecure, yes, but he's also very dominant, as we're gonna see. So, like,
Yeah.
it was actually bizarre because people kind of felt like they had to do whatever he said. And it's so sad because, like, obviously everyone's trying to keep away from him, but despite that, he was still kind of a womanizer. It feels so dumb to say because he's like ugly, mean, jerk, bully, all these horrible things. But he obviously favored very young women, as you're going to come to find out. And he fathered
Ew.
at least 15 children with multiple women.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's a big
How?
sleazeball. I don't know. I imagine, like, I have a hard time believing all this is consent because everyone's afraid of this man. So, about
That's
those
insane.
21 indictments, yes, they obviously, like, we started off kind of with like theft, but as I mentioned, there was definitely a lot of assault. And one story was of Trina McLeod, and this is devastating. So, it's around 1969, 1970, something in that area. And Ken McElroy, he's 35 years old at this time, and he's already married. I think this is like, depending on sources, it's either like his second wife or like maybe he just has like multiple women he's got going on. But either way, I know he's married to at least one legally. Is that the current wife? Not sure. But despite that, he sets his eyes on a 12-year-old girl named Trina McLeod. Yeah.
That's crazy
She,
because really fast, like way back in the day, like everyone would like get married so young.
mhm,
Like our great grandma, I think, was married like 14 or something. But
yeah.
this isn't that far back. This is the
This is
80s. Like,
80s. Mhm.
yeah. Like our parents were like adults.
This guy's adult. He's 35. It's one thing if you're like 14 and 17 getting married back then, like that's kind of more common
Yeah.
of what you would see. But like a
Mhm.
20-year age gap is disgusting no matter what.
Yeah. And it's a child.
Right. And this is what's creepy is that he noticed her because she rides the school bus through his part of town every single day. And that is how he came across him. There's a whole book around his story, and it's by this guy named Harry MacLean. And he has like a lot of information about this, but I kind of leaned more on court records. But regardless, according to either of those sources, Ken began following Trina's school bus, pulling alongside it, honking, and pressing the driver to pull over and let like him interact with this little girl. And I was like, that is so disturbing. Like, protect the dang children. But this bus driver is getting bullied into letting this strange man on the bus and chatting with this 12-year-old little girl.
Like a school
Like,
bus?
yes, a school bus. That's the kind of hold this man had on the town and literally
That's
anyone that
weird.
interacted with him. That is so weird. He's like harassing the bus, this freaking school bus driver to pull over. And this is what's even more disturbing
I don't even get why the
is
guy stopped. Just drive right by.
people are scared. Yeah, I felt the same way though. So this is what's disturbing, extra disturbing, is that as you can imagine, once Ken got a hold of Trina, he did not treat her very kindly, and multiple, repeatedly sexual assaults began to occur on Trina. And like I said, she's just 12 years old. So in his mind, he decided they're in a relationship. Obviously, this cannot be a relationship. She's 12 years old. She's not wanting to hug up with this 35-year-old man. There's no way that that's consensual, but this to him was going to be his new wife. When Trina's parents found out that this was all going on, and he was adamant. He's like, no, like, we're actually going to get married. Like, he went and told Trina's parents, I'm going to marry her. They absolutely said no, and they refused. Because at this time, they would have to sign off that their minor is allowed to marry this older man.
Oh, she's
So,
gonna force him?
yeah, so he's trying to force these parents to sign off legally that Trina can marry this man. And they try to protect their daughter, really. Like, they're trying to keep her away from him. Okay, this is hard for me to say. Obviously, I'm not in the situation. They say, obviously, that they did everything they could to protect her. I fear that my husband would have just straight up shot Ken and murdered him right there. And I'm not apologetic about that. If somebody was trying to marry my 12-year-old daughter, don't come
Yeah.
touch our kids. But
Yeah.
from my understanding, the parents tried, but in the end, they signed off.
Jeez.
Yeah. And you want to know why?
So, because he's gonna beat him up if they didn't or something?
Well,
Or force him?
because Ken burned down their house and shot their family dog.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
Yeah. He just does
So
whatever he wants.
he runs it. He made it clear there's like no version of where they would win. And so Trina's parents, they were homeless. They were like facing this guy who was just tormenting the family. They didn't know what to do, and so they like signed those marriage papers. And Trina became pregnant at just 14 years old, and now
Jeez.
kind of married to this guy. So she, of course, as you can imagine, dropped out of ninth grade. She moved into Ken's house, who he still shared with his
Scary.
then wife. Yeah. Like his then
2
wife, her
wives
name's
now?
Alice. Yeah. So it's like confusing because legally all the marriage licenses are confusing. Sounds like Alice was forced to stay at the house as well. Like she tried to leave, it didn't work. He said he specifically divorced Alice to marry Trina, but it sounds like he did that in order to drop the rape allegations because he can't get in trouble if they're legally married, evidently. And that was his way to get out of that. So I think he still probably had relationships with Alice, but being legally married to Trina, he escaped a lot of like the child abuse like, allegations, quote unquote.
Wow, creepy.
So creepy. And And so now you have like all these people living under one household, and it was not an easy time, as you can imagine. Just 16 days after Trina gave birth, she and Alice, like the former wife, they were so scared out of their mind. They actually made such a brave decision, and them two, took the baby and they fled. Like they went over
Really?
and tried to hide, yeah, but not very far. They only made it to Trina's house before Ken caught up, took them back home, and just beat them both so bad. That is so
Jeez.
sick. Just 16 days after giving birth.
That's sad. Dang.
It is so horrible. And
And
then
then
on
Trina's
top of that,
dad's not just, like, kicking him out and being like, "Never come back. My daughter's not yours." All that
right.
stuff.
And which is crazy because Ken drags them back to his house. And then he goes straight back over to Trina's parents' house, lights their property on fire for a second time, and killed their new dog. So he has burnt 2 of their houses down and killed 2 of their family dogs.
Jeez. Imagine the insurance company, they're like, "Really? This guy burned your
They're
house
like,
down twice?"
Ken McElroy. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, actually, you're right.
All right, quick break from the case. Because if you've ever looked up at a plane and thought, I wonder what it's like to actually fly one, this is for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Fly Flight School, a local flight school right here in Arizona that makes learning to fly simple, fast, and actually affordable. Simplify offers discovery flights where you can get in a real plane with a certified flight instructor, take the controls, and experience what it's like to be an actual pilot. No experience needed, just show up and enjoy. And for our listeners, you can get $10 off your discovery flight when you book through simplyflyco.com. Whether you're checking off a bucket list item, thinking about becoming a pilot, or just want the coolest experience you'll have all year, this is it. Head to simplyflyco.com, book your discovery flight, and use podcast discount to save $10. Now back to true crime.
Oh, we've heard of him.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's
It's so
crazy.
creepy. Ken's lawyer, he got Ken's back. His name was Richard Gene McFadden. He was a very skilled defense attorney in the area, and allegedly he would charge McElroy about $5,000 cash per felony charge. So Ken's just dishing cash to this defense attorney, who and then was able to get him out of like every charge ever. And it's crazy because
Why
for
do you have
2
cash?
decades, I don't know. I don't even know what he was doing for work. He's probably stealing it. But
Mhm.
for 2 decades, this worked. What they would often do is anytime Ken got in trouble, like his defense attorney, he would find witnesses with like old petty convictions to discredit him. They would like find and make up alibis, like threaten people to say that Ken was somewhere else. Like this guy seems like a slippery guy in my opinion. I don't think
Yeah.
he really did the law the way he was supposed to, but
Mhm.
they ran rings around the prosecutors. Prosecutors try and tell the truth, say what happened, and Ken and his defense attorney frankly just weaseled their way around everyone by like threatening people to or threatening witnesses with big alibis or threatening the jury to get them to drop the charges.
Yeah.
It's wild,
Jeez. Yeah.
right? So
Evil.
exactly. Based on Trina's account, like Ken McElroy, he was indicted in June 1973 with arson, assault, and stationary rape. And he was arrested, booked, and all that stuff. But he was released on only a $2,500 bail. So he went straight over to his defense attorney's office with the bag of cash. And eventually, through legal maneuvering, the total destruction of Trina's ability to testify safely against him like wasn't even there, and all charges were dropped. So like for all that stuff that I just mentioned that Ken did to Trina and and her family, all of it was on bail for $2,500, and then all of it was dropped in the end. For stealing a child, sexually abusing, burning 2 houses, killing dogs, all that dropped.
Dang.
Makes it me
That's
sick.
wild. I wonder if it's just small court stuff like that wouldn't ever fly in like real big courts. But it's just like everyone, like the judge and everyone knows those guys and knows what they're capable of, and it's too scary to do anything to them.
Yeah, which is frustrating because probably anywhere else you would have gotten charged with every single 21 indictments. Like you probably would have been guilty for all those. But his victim list does not stop there. It just piles up like crazy. So one incident, July 27th, 1976, a local farmer, his name's Romaine Henry, is on his own property when he notices Ken McElroy out there firing weapons on his property. This guy is so brave. He goes to confront him about it, and he I don't know if I assume he knows Ken's history. Either he is crazy brave or he's very naive, but either way, he goes and confronts Ken. Ken turns and shoots him twice in the stomach with his shotgun.
Jeez. Did he die?
Unbelievably, he survived. And
that's like
he is
crazy.
Yeah. Obviously everything was charged, and importantly, like Henry held his ground. He was one of the few who didn't back down. So while the case dragged on without a trial for like quite a while, during that time period it was in the wait, Ken McElroy would park outside his house, and he did this at least over 100 times. Is what's recorded. He just sat there watching,
to intimidate him or something?
Yeah, just trying to stir some fear in him. And Romaine Henry still had firm. He was like, I am not budging. Like, you literally shot me twice. I don't know how I survived. At the trial, like the defense attorney, McFadden, he actually produced 2 raccoon hunters who testified that they'd been out with Ken McElroy elsewhere on the day of the shooting. This is what I mean. He's getting witnesses to testify that Ken couldn't be there when it's very obvious that he was. Then the defense attorney even dug up some petty criminal conviction that Henry had from more than 30 years prior and used it to shred his credibility on the stand, which is so savage, like digging up that old stuff 30 years prior.
Just to I don't get how that discredits the person that much. If they look at his track record too.
I think they're trying to get the point. Like, I don't know what the conviction was, but I think they're trying to make Henry look like an unreliable source, saying like, "Oh, he does like it wasn't Ken, like he's a liar."
It wasn't
messing up his.
It wasn't Ken that shot me.
Yeah, exactly. So dumb. And reportedly, Ken McElroy had stalked and intimidated members of the jury before the trial even started, and he allegedly burned down the judge's barn.
Oh, dang. This guy is an arsonist, dude. He loved fire. He's like, oh, you don't agree with me? I'll burn it down.
Yeah, that's insane. And I cannot believe this. I should say, what? Ken was acquitted for shooting a man twice in the stomach with a rifle.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Honestly, they just need to shoot him.
That's a crazy approach. It's a wild take, no?
Well, if everyone's too scared of him and he's done this many bad things, boom.
Well, it just stinks because, this is one of the few guys who did everything right. Like, he did not back down. He reported it. He testified. He showed up. And he still lost somehow.
Yeah. And it's I bet the judge, his barn just got burned down. I bet everyone would be like, oh yeah, it must have not been you that shot him. It must have been someone else. Everyone would be play it off no big deal. I don't know. Keep going.
I was just going to say, and we're going to keep going with that list of victims because in April 25th, 1980, several of Ken's children stopped in at this B&B grocery store in Skidmore to buy some candy. And what happened next depends on source a little bit. But the basics of what happened is that due to some confusion at the register, one of Ken's younger children walked out with a candy bar in her hand that she didn't pay for. And of course, the clerk's hollering after her, get back here, mad at them that they stole. And the oldest sister was humiliated, grabbed the candy, put it back, and they stormed out of there. Well, an older sister came back in to declare that nobody was going to accuse her sister of stealing. And of course, this got back to Ken. And he was pissed about how the owners supposedly handled his kids stealing from their store. So Bo and Lois Bowenkamp are the owners. Bo is literally 70
me
years old.
guess.
Oh, go ahead.
He's gonna burn down the shop, burn down his house, and kill his dog.
Oh, wow, that's very good guess considering of the past we have seen. Well, this is even weirder because this family, these owners are so liked in the town, of course.
Yeah.
And they try to talk about it with Ken, say that it was a mistake, like there was miscommunication, not a big deal. But of course, what happened in the next 10 weeks was just horrid. Ken McElroy began parking outside their store, then outside their home. He made threatening phone calls. His wife, Trina, who is now Stockholm Syndrome, and to challenge like 70-year-old Lois, the wife, to a street fight. Like, he reportedly offered her cash to fight Trina, his wife. Like, he's like
Jeez.
trying to get them to fight. Like, it's so weird. So
Yeah.
all the threats only escalated though. On May 29th, he walks into the store on May 29th, he goes outside their house and he fires 2 shotgun blasts into the air over the house, obviously trying to threaten them. And the family, they report every single incident to the police, and every single time, all they say is keep an eye on him. That
Jeez.
is like so useless.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
That happened multiple times where he shot off his rifle outside their house to scare him. And then the evening of July 8th, 1980, Bo Bowenkamp had driven down to the store after hours to meet a repairman about a broken air conditioner. He was alone on the loading dock cutting up boxes, and Ken McElroy could not just keep it to himself. He could not let this go for whatever reason. And on this day, he heads to the store. 2 young boys happened to be nearby, and he actually handed them some candy so they would go and buy themselves some soda. And once they were gone, he raised the shotgun and shot Bo Bowman in the neck, hitting his neck and torso.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, worse than what you
Jeez.
said. Of course,
Yeah.
Bo was raced to the hospital, and by some miracle, he too survived. I don't know how Ken
Wow.
isn't a serial killer.
Yeah, seriously.
It
Jeez.
is insane. A highway patrol corporal named Richard Stratton, who had tangled with Ken before and knew his routes, and he's very familiar with Ken, he actually chased him down. One of the few cops I feel like actually did anything. He chased him
Yeah.
down the back roads and arrested him before he got out of the county. And Ken was charged with first-degree assault, a charge that carried possible life sentence. So for the first time in
Finally.
20 years, the first time the people of Skidmore let themselves feel a little bit of hope for the first time. Like, maybe finally this guy's going to get charged and go behind bars.
Yeah.
Well, in June of 1981, a jury convicted Ken McElroy of second-degree assault and sentenced him to 2 years in prison. And at first, the town's like, okay, we'll take 2 years. Like, we haven't had 2 years
Yeah.
of a break
A
ever.
piece ever. Yeah.
Yeah, that is until the judge allowed him out on a $40,000 bond pending his appeal. So
Jeez.
that same day, immediately after walking out of the courthouse, Ken went to the D&G Tavern and he brought his Garand, I think it's pronounced, rifle with the bayonet attached to it to the bar, sat down, got some drinks. Like, I guess he was making graphic and specific threats about what he was going to do to Bo Bowenkamp. I'm like, okay, you have a rifle, you got the freaking sword attached to it, you're in a bar, you're like threatening, all on bond. This is wildly illegal, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the people who are witnessing us, some of them actually try to formally report that the bond was getting violated in hopes of getting him locked up before anything else could happen. And it didn't work. His appeal hearing was delayed again. The town wrote letters to the governor, the attorney general, state legislations. They described what they were dealing with and asked everybody for help, and no help came. So the final straw. It's the morning of July 10th. This is where we started our stories. July 10th, 1981. The townspeople gathered at the American Legion Hall in the center of Skidmore to meet with the Nottoway County Sheriff Dan Estace. They had been here before. They had been reporting things, asking for help. Like, I just imagine just a crowd of villagers rolling up to the town square being like please help us from this man. Exactly. Where's their pitchforks?
Or a desperate mob.
True. This time, the tone was a little different. They wanted to know what could be legally done. Like, what options they even had. They're like, okay, obviously you're not going to put him behind jail. Like, what other alternatives are there? The sheriff told him that they need to form a neighborhood watch and avoid direct confrontation. It's
So nothing
crazy.
at all.
Nothing at all. Then he just moved on, left the crowd. While that meeting was happening, Ken McElroy rolled into Skidmore in his red Chevy Silverado with Trina in his passenger seat and walked into that same D&G tavern for a morning drink. Word got back to the men in town at Legion Hall, and they were all just walking down the street. The bar filled up quickly. I think this probably was the only bar in town. So men from that meeting, others from around town, word was spreading fast, the way it does with 440 people. And Ken McElroy, he finished his morning drinks as he always drinks before noon. He bought a 6-pack of beer and he walked out the cavern into the July morning. So Ken McElroy, he's now 47 years old. We kind of started the story when he was around 35. So they've been living in horror this whole time.
Yeah.
He stepped out of the tavern and out onto the main street of Skidmore. He had a 6-pack. He scanned the street, and dozens of people were out standing around as they just came from a town meeting of how to get rid of this guy. I'm sure they're all surrounding him like, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
So he could not care less. He was not threatened that there was people around him, everyone glaring at him, everyone hating him. He could not care less. He just gets in his truck. Trina climbs in the passenger seat, put the key in the ignition, reached for a cigarette, and then gunshots. Sharp, loud, rupturing the stillness of Missouri's summer morning. The shots came from at least 2 directions. One from close range, one from a distance. Shell casings hit the pavement, a 2020 rim fire, and an 8mm center fire. Ken McElroy was struck twice. Once in the head, once in the neck. And he slumped over the driver's seat, dead.
Wow. So they really did kill him.
So somebody did. The man who shot a farmer twice in the stomach and walked. The man who shot a 70-year-old grocer man in the neck and walked. The man who had burned down 2 houses, shot 2 dogs, married a 14-year-old, and eliminated the rape charges against him, and all walked out with 21 indictments. Like, this is the guy who now was slumped over his wheel. Scrambled out of the passenger seat. She was screaming. She was covered in blood. An unnamed bystander helped her out of the truck. Nobody called for an ambulance. Nobody ran to help him. Nobody moved toward the truck whatsoever. So
they're like, it's over.
From different sources, roughly 46 people stood on or near that street. So 46 witnesses watching this unfold play by play, yet when asked, every single one of them gave the same answer. They didn't see a thing.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
So like vigilante justice mixed with town mutual agreement to not snitch is the way to beat that guy.
I mean, that's what it seems like. Like, was the whole town the vigilante? Like, so investigators obviously descended on Skidmore, Missouri State Highway Patrol, the sheriff's office, and within 8 days, the FBI was involved. Which I'm like, you guys are doing all that when multiple people have been shot and harassed, and you didn't do anything for them. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they had
that
shell
guy
casings.
Doesn't know the story, probably.
Oh yeah, true. They had shell casings. They had forensic evidence. They had the calibers of the guns, a 22 and an 8mm. They had potentially 46 witnesses. And they had Ken McElroy's own wife, who had been sitting in the passenger seat when it happened. Trina did name someone that she thought was like the shooter. She told authorities that she had seen this guy named Del Clement, a young farmer, the son of the co-owner of the D&G tavern, holding a rifle in the moments after the shooting. Like, the location of the shell casings and the trajectory of the wounds placed one shooter kind of where Clement was standing. A county coroner's inquest convened then at the state grand jury. So we have 12 jurors, 15 sessions over 5 weeks. So they heard from the same witnesses, the sheriff himself, Romaine Henry, who got shot, from Bo Bowenkamp, who got shot. They heard all the forensic evidence, and Dell himself, who the wife kind of accused was a shooter, he himself testified. On September 25th, 1981, the state grand jury concluded with no indictment. Trina's identification had no corroboration. So, like, Dell was like on trial, I guess, to see if he was indicted, and not one other witness confirmed what she saw. So, that being said, the U.S. Justice Department ordered an FBI investigation. Agents conducted over 100 interviews through the winter, and in spring of 1982, a federal grand jury heard the same testimonies again and same results, no indictment, and the case was closed.
Wow.
Leaving no charges ever. And who killed Ken?
Dang,
so
that's kind of sick.
It's crazy. As of 2026, no one has been charged in connection with the death of Ken Rex McElroy. So McFadden, who
Screw
was
Ken.
McElroy's, yeah, seriously. So McFadden was the defense attorney, for Ken. He reflected on it years later, and he said, quote, "I know why they didn't talk. They were all glad he was dead. The town got away with murder." I was like, that's a
What a
crazy
weird.
thing to say.
He's like my money, my easy money's dead.
Yeah. His
That's why he's
passive
mad.
money just keeps flowing in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. And it's actually kind of crazy because, like, one former Nottoway County sheriff is quoted also telling a woman who came to report Ken McElroy's behavior in the past. They said, quote, "If you have to shoot him, let us know. We'll come get him before he starts to stink." From a
Oh
sheriff
wow.
said that. A sheriff told a woman
Yeah.
that she was getting harassed. And he's like, "If you gotta shoot him, just let me know to come get him." So I don't think anyone in this town was going to say a peep, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
And which
I think.
is kind of, I know, I go back and forth because, like, obviously don't take things into your own hands if you don't have to. Like, there's proper ways to do
Yeah.
it. Obviously the system failed these people many times, and this seems like their only way out in a lot of ways. But you see so many people killing people and saying it's their only option. Most of the time it's not your only option. So don't try to be that
Yeah.
hero and just go murder people. But in this case, it's pretty gnarly that, like, potentially 50 people didn't even speak up.
Yeah. It's cool.
Well, yeah,
but
as far as
crazy.
Trina, true. Trina in 1984, she actually filed for a wrongful death lawsuit and she wanted like $6 million. She walked away and settled
Yeah.
for about $17,600. So, like,
Oh wow.
no, but
From the
yeah,
town or what? Oh, okay.
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sheriff's office. So
Jeez.
Trina, she was only 12 years old, and when her family's house was burned down twice, she got pregnant at 14. Has been in this marriage, you can say, since she was a child. And so I think there was some Stockholm syndrome going on because she did seem kind of
Yeah.
disappointed that her husband died when no one else in the whole world felt the same way. But
Yeah.
which is so sad because they tried to do the right thing with the law enforcement, get involved, and she just kept getting handed back to her rapist over and over, which is disgusting.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, she eventually remarried. She moved out of the town, and she died in 2012 on her 55th birthday. So
Wow. She died young.
Richard,
Oops.
yeah, she did. Richard Stratton, the trooper who arrested Ken McElroy after the Bone Camp shooting and was one of the first officers on the scene on July 10th, said years later, quote, "Those were fathers and grandfathers on the street in Skidmore that day. Ordinary, hardworking people. They did what they did because we didn't do our job. Then they went home and kept their mouths shut and kept them closed all these years."
Yeah.
End quote.
True that.
And that is the bizarre case of Ken Rex McElroy.
How crazy.
Isn't
I feel
that
like that's
so?
the kind of thing that only happens in a small town. But
I know.
seriously, that's crazy.
So
I feel
what
like
a
that kind of
different
probably
type.
happens. Yeah. I feel like that probably kind of happens in certain places as well, like Chicago, like no one wants to snitch and like gang violence and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But like something
I
like
guess
this
gang
is so
violence.
totally different. Yeah.
But
You
even
ready
in
for a
gang
couple?
violence, yeah, one sec. Even in gang violence, I feel like it's like only 4 people who know, and then like one of their girlfriends might say something, like an ex-girlfriend or
Yeah.
something, you know?
True that.
And
Yeah.
it's not like 20 times the amount of people that would have known. So I don't know, it's just crazy.
Yeah. True.
But yes, hit me with that
Crazy.
true crime news.
All right, welcome back to another episode of True Crime News. All right, so we're starting off hot and heavy. In April of 2026, accused serial killer Rex Heuermann made headlines again after reportedly confessing to his ex-wife that he murdered 8 women connected to the Gilgo Beach killings. Although he had previously pled guilty to 7 murders earlier in the month, this new claim suggests that there may have been even more victims. Prosecutors say many of the crimes took place between 1993 and 2010, often inside the Long Island home while his family was away. His sentencing is expected in June of 2026. So, oh no.
Random, his name is Rex, and Ken's middle name was Rex.
I know, I was just
Dun,
thinking
dun,
when you were
dun.
talking that maybe Rex is a name you don't want to name anyone. So,
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
well, my laptop died, so that's the only true crime news today.
Classic. Sweet. Well, I hopefully this audio came across clearly. We'll be in person next time. But thanks for listening to another
Yes.
episode. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Thank you. Adios.